Please listen carefully.
So hi, Steph.
Hi.
I thought we would take the time to talk about you because a lot of our folks are still getting to know you as a new coach. But then I also thought we could talk about our upcoming kids program and then talk about just kids training in general.
Yep.
So why don't you start just giving us a little bit of background as to like where you grew up, what kind of like childhood you had, and kind of leading up to obviously working out and fitness and all that.
So basically, I grew up in Upper Marion in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. I actually live in the house that I grew up in. I struggled. The main thing about my childhood is that I struggled with my weight my whole life. So I was, for as long as I can remember, I was overweight and got, a lot of people giving me a hard time about it. I remember my first diet was like in 4th grade, like all the cafeteria workers and the principal and my mom, like all committed to give me like $1 for every pound I lost. Didn't really work, all my attempts, by 7th grade, I was over 300 pounds. And then in my 20s, I was over 400 pounds. I decided to have a gastric bypass. I lost a bunch of weight. I had a baby a year and a half after, my daughter Javina. And then after I had her, I started to gain weight back. I actually hit rock bottom in a lot of different places because I had this like life-changing surgery and I still gained it back. So like I knew it wasn't a matter of finding like another diet. I knew that there was something that fundamentally had to shift up here. And I worked with a life coach and I did a lot of work on being present. And detaching from the thoughts in my mind versus who I really was. And I finally got to a place of really accepting myself and loving myself. And it was like an epiphany because all of a sudden I was able to, I was okay as I was. I didn't have to lose weight to be anything. I used to think I would have to lose weight to be who I was, to be my true self. When I realized that I was already my true self, nothing needed to change. All of a sudden, I started to be able to eat better, want to do working out. I went back I was going to Curves. I went back there. But like I went back there and I was like, this just doesn't feel right because it was all about weighing and measuring. It wasn't super intense. We were like talking and I was like, this doesn't feel right. And I heard about CrossFit. A couple people I knew were doing it. And I was like, when my membership runs out, I'll go check out this CrossFit thing. And this was in 2009, so it was a while ago. And like a week later, the Curves was closing. So
if there's any sign, that was it, right?
So I called up the local gym and was like, I'm coming in, and I should have been afraid. I should have been like looking at the videos of the CrossFit and being like, no, but it was like one of those times in my life where I just followed my gut. And I went in and I was like instantly hooked, even though I couldn't run 200 meters without walking. I couldn't jump on a 12-inch box. I basically could do nothing. The only thing that I kind of could do was pick up weight because, I maybe carrying all that weight made me a little bit stronger, or maybe I'm just naturally stronger. But other than that, it was kind of like that. And I fell in love with the intensity. It was like almost like meditation to me because it wasn't like I was thinking about, like it wasn't a means to an end. It was like me connecting with my body, which I had never done because I had never played sports. There was like 4 or 5 times in my life where I had intense things with physical things that I loved. And I never like really equated it to loving it because it was physical. But after starting CrossFit, I was like, that's what it was. I actually liked the intensity of pushing myself physically.
What were some of those things?
Floor hockey in gym class. There was like one gym class where we played floor hockey the whole time. And it was like super intense, like climbing through the caves in New Hampshire. There was like this one mountain where there were all these caves to go through and we did the harder ones.
Cool.
Things like that where I was like bloody dirty and like it was hard and I did it, like that feeling of accomplishment. Yeah.
When you were growing up through school, did you want to play sports? Like, did you want to be more active?
So in 7th grade, all my girlfriends were playing floor hockey. Or not floor hockey, I'm sorry, field hockey.
Okay.
So I signed up too. went to the first practice, was a ton of running, and I was dying. And then we got our uniforms, and they didn't have any uniforms to fit me. And it would have taken 2 uniforms to sew together, and I was like, I'm not doing this, and I quit.
Got it.
And I wonder what would happen if like somebody was like wouldn't let me quit.
Yeah.
Or if I had gotten into sports when I was younger, because I've met other people in my life. I used to do some media work for CrossFit HQ and interview people, and I interviewed this one woman that was like, not overweight, but just bigger.
Sure.
But she had grown up in a family where it was just like you play sports. So even though she was bigger, she played from the beginning. It was the norm. Yeah. And how I might have been different.
Yep.
But it's okay, because I mean, it's like all that I went through, I think, made me like the coach and who I am today. Yeah. So it's good.
So when you were looking up CrossFit, did you see videos and things that other people generally tend to see in terms of seeing this crazy stuff going on, and then generally they're somewhat intimidated or nervous to get started because they think it's this like crazy elite thing that only elite athletes can do and everything. And even people coming from other workout programs, so they're already active, they're already working out, right? Did you see that stuff, and did that cross your mind, but you decided to ignore it because you were trying to just dive right in? I
don't know. It was weird because it was like I said, I didn't really think a lot about it. I think the one thing that was different for me was that I had no expectations of myself.
Got it.
And I think that might help too, because I just knew I was going to suck at everything. So it didn't. So I just I guess embraced that or whatever. And the fact that I fell in love with the intensity and the community aspect of it, because I love community is like a big value for me. Mm-hmm. And then also there was some reward in being good at something. My first workout was the CrossFit Total.
Gotcha.
And I deadlifted like 210 or 220 on my first day. So there was some inherent wow, I have something I can do. So that was empowering. I think that made a big difference. Learning the barbell was like a cool thing which I had never done before.
Cool.
For CrossFit. So
yeah, it's got to be valedating when you're starting something new and you do find at least something
that you're good at,
that you are relatively good at.
Which is cool about CrossFit, because there's usually usually something somebody's good at. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're a runner, you're going to be good at a bunch of the running workouts, right? Yeah. If you're a former gymnast, chances are you're probably good at a lot of stuff.
Everything,
right?
Yeah.
Weightlifting, if you're stronger, coming from like a bodybuilding background, you'll be decent at the weight stuff, right? So, totally. But everyone also has holes and gaps in their game too. Yeah. All right, so you start working out. This is what, 2009?
Yeah.
Right? That's also when we had first met, because I was coaching, and I distinctly remember, I think that was right around the Yak in the Box fundraiser, right? That was one of your first community things, right?
Totally.
I distinctly remember that.
I think that was in it was a couple 2 months in or something.
Yeah. After that, at what point did you think you wanted to coach? How did you get into coaching? Mm-hmm. What did you think of all that on that side of things versus being a member or an athlete?
So I guess it was a couple things. I mean, one, at some point I was like, I'm here all the time anyway. I'm in here. I love it so much. At the time, I worked. My career prior to CrossFit was in human services, so I worked with people with developmental disabilities and different chronic mental illness and things like that. And I was running a day program at the time, and I was also working on getting into becoming a life coach and doing that. And the owner of the gym I was going to wanted to start a nonprofit, a Steve's Club nonprofit at our gym. So she kind of approached me about that. And so I kind of was like, well, I'm here all the time. I'm really passionate about, kids getting this, introduced to this when, they're teenagers, what a difference it would have made for me. Mm-hmm. But then once I did the level 1 and I did the kids cert, I decided, I was like, if I'm gonna do this, I wanna be a coach. I wanna be a full coach. Cause I had seen other people that were kids coaches, but would only and because I was bigger and I'm not your traditional athlete, I wanted to be seen as a full coach, and so I was I could have easily just fall into just being a kids coach.
Right.
Not that that's not an amazing thing to be.
Sure.
But I just kind of like was like, I'm going to go all in. And so I didn't expect it to be a career, but then I got into it and I found that one, I really enjoyed it. Like it didn't feel like work and I was good at it. And I had a knack for connecting with people. I had a knack, my intuition that I had with people applied to motivating them in a physical way.
For sure.
And I love human movement and I love the process of, I think adaptation. It's just fascinating, and how much the physical relates to the emotional, relates to the intellectual. Like it really is, like it's all connected, and I think that's why it really, like you know, it's works for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a saying where you come for the fitness, but you stay for the community.
Yeah.
You know, there's definitely something he said about like we have this common thread of working out together, and that's generally what people look for when they look for a gym, right? It's very surface level, but what I've seen over the years is people end up staying and people realize that there's way more than just the workout itself, right? Like the workout itself is great, but there's so many life lessons involved and there's so many connections that you're making.
Yeah, so like even, there's a community, but then there's like, when you're in a hard workout, there's sometimes you're in a longer workout and you have to like kind of just like keep going and get through it. And sometimes life's like that, right? Like you got a situation.
2020 is a
you just gotta gut
chipper
it out.
of all chippers.
You got to gut it out. And then sometimes, you have a workout where it's like race, where you're going to be like 3 to 5 minutes and you're just like dying. And, life's like that sometimes too.
For sure.
Where there's something really painful and hard. And I think CrossFit, like that, well, it does all that so much for your fitness, but it also teaches you like mental resilience and realize that you are capable to get through hard things. So it translates a lot. So it's one of the reasons why I love it so much.
Yeah, there's this physical adaptation, but also like between the ears adaptation of like just being more resilient.
Yeah,
right?
totally.
Cool. So you got into coaching. You are doing, you're coaching adults, you're coaching kids. You get into weightlifting as well, which I find it seems like that was definitely a bit of a specialty that you really dove yourself into.
Yeah.
Let's talk about kids and teens and kind of transition to that way. So you started running a teen barbell club. You obviously have the more traditional kids classes as well. Yeah. What are some things that you feel like kids and teens get out of working out?
Yeah. I think, when we work with adults in CrossFit, a lot of times we're trying to fix some of the things, the years of inactivity, years of like sitting at a desk. There's a lot more like mobility issues and stability issues that we're like, fixing. But with the kids, it's like kind of like a blank slate. And it's like if you it's just like a house, right? Like, so if you build a foundation well, it's going to affect everything. So, and it even goes back to the mental stuff that we were talking about. So, so with the kids, when we get them doing the functional movements correctly from the beginning, we have that foundation, but then even the mental resilience. And I've seen that with the kids, like just the confidence they have, and all that stuff the adults get, and think about how that then relates to the rest of their life.
Right.
And it really is like, I think CrossFit Kids is the best thing that comes out of CrossFit, honestly. I mean, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about the differences. So, for people who aren't familiar with CrossFit, maybe they're familiar that from like a social media standpoint, or they maybe saw the Netflix documentary.
Yep.
So they're thinking, oh my God, like kids are doing, 3 to 5 year olds are doing what these adults are lifting, and like what does that look like for kids versus adults?
Yeah. I mean, first off, the focus for kids is fun, because they're not going to pay attention. You have to make it fun.
Right.
So you make workouts fun by doing all kinds of things. We play games that have the movements mixed into them, so you make it fun. And then the focus is on the functional movements themselves. So it's about teaching proper form. Again, there's fun ways to do that, of things like squatting, pushing, pulling. those things that you need to be able to do in regular life, pick up their backpacks off the ground, put something on a shelf overhead. So we focus on those functional movements. And, you know, I lost my train of thought.
Okay. Yeah, functional movements.
Yeah.
Having fun.
Yeah.
Establishing that good foundation.
Yeah.
Right. So I feel like with kids, instead of focusing on and there are a lot of similarities to how we coach kids and how we coach beginner adults, right?
Yeah.
Because form is that foundation that we can build upon. If we can have that good form with lifting, we'll be able to slowly incrementally build up in weight,
Yep.
right? Versus just starting at a heavy weight where form degrades,
Yep.
or we're using bad habits. That's, I think, one of the differences of kids and adults. It's a lot of kids don't have bad habits per se.
Yep.
We need to teach them just the foundational movements of
Yep.
squatting, pushing, pulling, hinging.
Yeah.
Adults may, if they, especially if they've been working out, and especially if they've been doing barbell related stuff, almost always have form that we need to kind of break down first and then build back up.
And with their littlest kids, like your 3 to 5 to 6 or whatever, you're completely unloaded, so you're not really giving them any weight at all.
Right.
When you start to get into the 6 to like the elementary school age, like 6 to 10, we start with some light dumbbells, and dumbbells are great because they get to introduce the movements in a way without the bar paths, so they can learn the general principles of it without having to worry about getting their face or their knees around the barbell.
Yeah.
And the other thing about weight is kids have this innate ability. Kids are smarter than adults. Mm-hmm. When things are really hard, they're like, I'm not doing it. Mm-hmm. So inherently there's kind of a safety feature built into kids. It's not until they're like 13, 14 that they start pushing. Other than that, if something's too heavy, they're like, I'm not doing this.
Yeah, there's no ego there. It's
they're like, this is too hard.
Right,
so,
right.
So it's not so much of an issue about like loading at all.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So, yeah.
Cool. Talk about the stuff that we do in the gym with kids and teens, and then how that might translate to sports. Because I feel like, while there are kids who might do this exclusively as their like thing, their extracurricular or their activity, there's also a lot that end up doing it to supplement for sports.
Yeah.
Right. So let's talk about like GPP and
Yeah,
what that means.
So everybody talks about the obesity epidemic with kids in America, and that's obviously like, inactivity is a problem. Mm-hmm. But there's another problem that nobody really talks about, and you can certainly like go online and find some information about it, but there's a lot of injury in our kids with sports, and it has a lot to do with specializing really early. So I know people watching and listening know like if they have kids in sports, there's this push to get, if your kid's a good soccer, especially if they're good, if your kid's like a good soccer player, you're playing soccer all year round. Mm-hmm. And there are some programs that are good at like trying to supplement and make sure that they're well-rounded, but a lot of times, it's just skill, and not building any of the GPP, so general physical preparedness. So if a kid doesn't have the stability to do a proper squat, a proper push-up, a pull-up, they're missing that basic stability, and then you expect them to go out on the field and be a good athlete and perform. They're missing the mark with performance, but then they're also more prone to injury. With any running sport, which a lot of our field sports are, it's very quad dominant. Yep. So if you don't do anything to balance it out and hit the stuff in the back, you're going to end up with knee issues, quad issues, hamstrings, tears, things like that. Yep. So it's super important, for performance and for injury prevention. And what a lot of people do, for their kids as supplement is they go for speed training. Right. So they'll be in sports, but then they'll pay some facility that has them running more drills with the ladder and more sprints and things like that. Again, if you don't have the stability, you're never gonna have the ability to generate power or know how to generate power. All that speed training is kind of like, you're kind of missing the mark. So, it's super important. And if you do, with your younger kids, if they have that foundation, they're also going to be better off too.
Right.
So, yeah.
And a lot of the movements translate to the field or to the court.
Yeah.
So things like box jumps, are plyometrics. Things like weightlifting is jumping, but because you have a weight of some sort, dumbbells or barbell, you're just not leaving the ground that much. but the force that's needed to lift weight
absolutely.
is what
Yeah,
translates
if you
to
look at the power position in weightlifting, so you look at that basic like hip hinge here, right?
Right.
If you pull movements, if you pull pictures of people in all different sports, they're in exactly that position, running, jumping, basketball. So, I mean, like there's that hip power in all
That's why it's called the power position, because it's the most powerful
so
position
if a kid knows how to do that, you know, generate power in that way through learning, you know, like a clean with dumbbells or, you know, a bar, that's going to translate directly, or a box jump. Like, so it really does. It has a direct translation for it.
Yeah, for sure. I played soccer growing up, and I didn't appreciate it until later, once I got into CrossFit, that my soccer coach was very focused on us being fit. Not like ball skills, sure, of course, but general fitness. So we were always doing push-ups, sit-ups, lunges, ton of lunges.
That's perfect.
Squats, but like, and I definitely did not appreciate what we were doing in the moment, because it was just, you know, torture at the time. But it's that whole like second half fitness or fourth quarter fitness. It's like, who's going to be able to outlast the other team?
Absolutely.
And just being able to just keep going and at a higher intensity than the other team.
Yeah, and you know, sadly, you know, with what's going on in the world right now, and the fact that, you know, a lot of sports just got canceled. I mean, a lot of local areas in my school district, they just canceled, you know, sports. So this is actually, like, the silver lining is this is actually like a really good time to go get that GPP and to sign up, whether you sign up for our programs and do our virtual kids, or to do the teens here, or just, you know, do some research and do it on your own, or find a program near you, like where that's more focused on general physical preparedness. I mean, it's why not now seems perfect.
Yeah. So let's talk about what we're offering. So starting, if you guys are listening to this in real time, it's going to start September 14th, 2020. That'll be the start of our 6-week session for virtual kids and in-person teens. You want to talk about the differences between the two and general logistics?
So the virtual kids is going to be Tuesdays and Thursdays from starting at 3:45. It's a half-hour long virtual session. So they'll log on. I did a lot of virtual kids classes over the quarantine, so I picked up lots of little tricks, because it was kind of unknown world. It wasn't like anybody had like a blueprint for how to do this. But I just applied the same principles that I do in regular kids classes. Make it fun, try to make it interactive. I got creative with games. We follow that same format of, like, there's a warm-up. Sometimes I would do like warm-up dances, like things to get them moving and grooving. Then do some kind of teaching, some kind of movement, teaching whatever the movement of the day is. And then a short, fun workout. And then we would usually end with a game. You know, it actually works pretty well.
And that's going to be for ages 6 through 10-ish. So basically it's a matter of just making sure that the child is able to pay attention. And we shorten it to a half hour, because, you know, most kids' attention spans aren't going to last much more than that. So it's loose on the younger end. If you have like a mature 5-year-old, that's totally fine. If you have a 11 or 12-year-old, that would be more appropriate to do the virtual, or logistically it's better to do virtual. Great. But then we also have a preteen teen class that's going to be Monday and Wednesdays?
Monday and Wednesdays, same time, 3:45, 45-minute class. In the teens class, we'll be doing more of a closer to an adult class. And that's the thing about teens, is that you start to be able to introduce like the adult format of CrossFit, with some caveats of still trying to like make it fun and build community for them. So we'll generally be doing, depending on what the workout of the day is at Kanna, we'll be doing that or some version of that. And, you know, focusing on just, you know, introducing them to the movements, you know, and starting with unloaded dumbbells, and then
depends on who's in the class. Some people are going to be maybe more experienced versus others, and so obviously you'll modify.
And we have, you know, the reason why, I mean, teens we can do in person is, you know, the younger kids is a little hard to keep them apart with social distancing, but the teens are at a mature level that we're able to use what we do with adult classes.
Yep.
We're able to social distance. We have the outside option.
Yeah, they could be inside or outside, just like the
and
adult classes.
all the precautions that we take in place. So,
Yep.
So that's why teens are able to kind of be in here and get in the gym and use equipment.
All right, cool. So where can people find you, email you for more information, Facebook, Instagram, all that jazz?
Yep. So my email is steph@kanna.fit. So you can email me any questions you have or anything. I can, if you want more information or the landing page for registration, it might be on something on the link for here.
Yeah, we'll put it on our main website
But
as well.
like you can always email me for that. And then on Instagram, I'm Coach Steph Vincent. So you can always follow me there.
Perfect.
Cool.
All right, cool. Anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. I'm really excited to get going and really start working on building the Kanna Kids program.
Cool.
So it's something I'm super passionate about, and so I'm ready to go.
Yeah, and chances are, even though this is a 6-week session, as long as things go well and everything, this is something that we'll look to continue
Absolutely.
in these chunks. So, cool.
Cool.
All right, thanks.
Thanks.
Please listen carefully.